When your oil gets hot, you want to add in the mustard seeds, and then they should splatter just like that. Cook it for a couple seconds, and then add in the curry leaves. And the curry leaves will splatter a lot. So I'm gonna add in about a tablespoon of lentils just for a bit of crunch. And these are raw, uncooked lentils. And I'm gonna roast it in the pot for a couple minutes on low. You have to be very careful because they do burn very quickly. So keep it on low and just cook them until they're golden brown. Then I'm gonna add in onions, jalapenos, ginger and garlic paste, and salt. You can also add in a couple of dried red chilies. I think we ran out, so I'm not going to be adding that. But yeah, and those are just the spices that go in it, and that's pretty much it. So the lentils are nice and golden brown, and if I leave them in any longer, they will burn. So I'm gonna go ahead and add in the onions and the peppers. And this will pretty much just add a nice flavor, and it's completely optional. My mom actually, when she makes it, she doesn't add in the lentils or the onions or the peppers. She adds actually a couple of peanuts instead of the lentils for the crunch. And she likes to keep it very simple. I like to make it slightly differently just for some variety. But this is a great way to make it too. And this is the point, you can also add in any other vegetables you like. I know some people like to add carrots and peas, even a tomato in there just to make it almost like, just to give it a nice tomato broth. But I'm going to be just adding onions and jalapenos to this. So you want to cook this just until the onions soften and the raw flavor of the ginger and garlic paste sort of goes away. And then we're going to add in the semolina. And for the semolina, you need about a cup of semolina to about a cup and a half to 2 cups of water, depending on how loose or thin you like the upma or porridge to be. So I actually like it a little dry. So I'm gonna start with about a cup of water for each cup of semolina. So I'll show you guys excuse me, how to do that, and just stay tuned. So I measured out about a cup of this glass and I poured it in, and this should be about a cup and a half, I think. But yeah, I'll use the same measuring cup or the glass for the water, just so I have the ratio right. But yeah, for those who don't know me, I'm not a person who measures. I sort of cook like my mom, where I just like dump things in as I go, and I don't really have like a proper way to measure my recipes or measure the ingredients for the recipes. That's why I had such a hard time with the blog, actually, because I don't really measure when I cook. It's sort of like a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but hopefully my recipes, you know, they're turning out right if you guys are trying them out, that the measurements are how they're supposed to be. Sorry, it's really hard for me to cook and talk at the same time, so there's a lot of pauses and a lot of as I'm cooking, so bear with me here. So one of my greatest struggles as a person who posts content on Instagram is actually talking to the camera or talking into the camera. It's just so much more easier to talk to someone in real life, and my family thinks I'm crazy that I'm talking like to myself. But yes, it's an interesting experience. You know, you learn so much about yourself and your strengths and your weaknesses, and it's an interesting experience, I should say. But I guess you learn as you go. And yeah, it's definitely a first. I'm not much of a talker to begin with, so a lot of times my enthusiasm and excitement is sort of lost when you just get to hear my voice. So, but I am pretty, excited for this. Yeah, so let me just explain what I'm doing here. I'm just roasting the semolina, and I just want it to turn slightly golden brown. And then to that I'm going to add in the water. And this just helps it give it a more nuttier flavor. Whereas if someone like my mom, she doesn't like to roast it, and she just actually boils the water with the vegetables and spices first, and then she adds in the semolina. I find that to be slightly gummy, whereas this one is slightly more nuttier, and the grains of the semolina are a bit more separated, whereas that's a little more stuck together, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's all based on preference and what you like, so you can do whatever you feel like your family or you would like most. And also, this is very similar to grits, but grits take a longer time to cook. This just takes a couple minutes, maybe 1 to 2 minutes max. So I'm going to switch over to a whisk now, and when I add in the water, I'll whisk it at the same time, just so I don't have any lumps of uncooked semolina in there. So I have about a cup of hot water here, and this is the same glass that I used to measure out the semolina. So I'm going to add in I'm going to start with 1 full cup or 1 full glass, and just whisk that in and add in more water as needed. So this is obviously not much. It's going to definitely need a bit more water, just so the semolina blooms. Let's see here. So I would say this is about a half of that. And let that cook. So like I said, I don't like it to be very loose. I'm gonna sort of cook it until I have a grainy texture to the semolina. But you can definitely make this into a grits texture by adding more water. It's all up to you. So you can have this with a side of chutneys. I think traditionally it's served with sesame and coconut chutneys, but we're gonna have it with achaar today. I have 3 different kinds of achaar. So this is a mango pickle, and it's just grated mangoes. And I like this brand a lot. This is a tomato chutney. It's also nice, and you can have this with like a side of like white rice and curries. And this is the best one out of all of them, because my grandma made this one all the way from India. She sent it, so it's the best in my opinion. But yeah, you can definitely play around with the chutneys. Yeah, I'll go ahead and show you guys what it looks like.